Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making Love Cupcake Soap or Love Spell Soap Cupcakes, as you want to call it. And I'm going to be starting by making the embeds for it. And I'm using just clear melt and pour soap, as you can see here, that I melted down. And then I put it in this heat-safe glass container. I'm using Burlesque Mica. It's a color that I absolutely love. It comes from a company called You Make It Up. I will leave the link down in the description box below. And then I like to use a whisk to stir in the mica because I feel that it really combines very well. And then I'm adding some biodegradable glitter here from Nurture Soap. I think it's very important to use biodegradable glitter just for an environmental issue. And then I'm not using any fragrance for these embeds here, but you totally can if you want to. I think it's not really necessary. And then I'm just pouring it into these little cavities here. This is a mold that I got from Amazon. I can also leave a link down in the description box. But I think you can find some hard molds pretty much everywhere. They also come like in the ice cube type of cavity, mold cavities that you can find in the grocery store or in similar shops or online. And then you can use, of course, different types of hearts. You know, they have more these 3D types of hearts or smaller ones, bigger ones. I mean, there are no limits to one's fantasy, and I think it's just a matter of preference. And then I just leave it without putting it into the fridge, because I think that in my experience the melt and pour soap has tendency to sweat more if you put them in the fridge. So I'm just leaving it like this, and I'm just making sure that I prepare the embeds ahead so that I don't need to get into a stress to have them ready when I need them. Okay, so now that our embeds are ready and waiting to cool down and harden completely, I'm gonna go and just add my lye water to the oils. You will find the recipe down in the description box below. I'm using the same recipe for the cupcake bottom and the piping. That's the same recipe. It works well for me. You know, the piping just needs to wait a little longer until it gets to piping consistency, but it's the same recipe, so that's really practical. So once the oils and the lye water are combined to an emulsion, I'm just gonna split off in equal parts basically, and I'm gonna use one for the piping. So I'm gonna set this one aside here and then move on to the part of the cupcake basis, if you want to call it that way. And I'm using again this Burlesque Mica here. It comes from You Make It Up. I'm just in love with this color. It's a deep kind of raspberry type color that I absolutely love. And as you can see, I have some titanium dioxide ready here mixed with water. It's water soluble. Titanium dioxide, you also have the oil soluble ones. I just prefer the water soluble, and I just have it ready in case I need to lighten up the pink. You know, it can always happen that you think it's too dark and then you want to make it a little bit lighter, so it's always good to have your titanium dioxide ready and at hand if you need it, and if you don't need it, well, that's okay too, of course. So here I feel that I need some more, because you always have to consider that after saponification process the color will always turn a little lighter, and in this case I really want to have like a real deep rich color, you know, also matching to the hard embeds that I have. So I'm just gonna be continuing to stick blend it, and you can see it's a little bit thick, but that's not a problem because in this case I'm using this Love Spell fragrance oil from Brambleberry, And this Love Spell fragrance oil has the tendency of reverse your traces. So if you have a, you know, like a batter that is a little bit, how can I say, thick, then with the Love Spell it gets thinner. I don't know why that is, but that is really interesting. So you can see here I'm trying to combine really everything into the mixture here to have the color like evenly dispersed throughout the batter. So just making sure that everything is in. And now here comes the Love Spell fragrance oil. I'm just using half of it. The other half I'm gonna use for the piping. And for those one that have not noticed, I have this really handy silicone spatula holder that is really super. And it also helps me to keep my working table clean, which is always an issue because I tend to make a mess. But on the other hand, we have a saying here, something like, if you don't get dirty, then you're not having fun. I don't believe it's really true, but you know. Anyway, so I'm now getting these cupcake liners filled with this soap batter here. And I use the tray underneath, and it's really practical because then you can easily shake the cupcake forms. And I'm making 12 of those. And yeah, I mean the tray is a little bit thick. I would love to have it a little thinner, but this is how it is, and I will have to work with that. And for those who don't know, these silicone liners here, they come from IKEA. I love the shape of it, and they are really inexpensive, and they work very fine for soap. And if you are interested to see, I have another video on my channel here where I show what kind of things that you can find for soap making at IKEA. Some people don't know IKEA. It's a Swedish company, and here in Europe it's very popular. You can get furniture, usually, you know, stuff like that. But you will be amazed how many things that you can find there that come in really handy for soap making. So if you're interested in that, I will put a card here in the top right corner, so you can go and see that as well. So we are moving on to the piping. As you can see here, the trace is really thick, but I am not worried about it, because as soon as I will add this Love Spell fragrance oil, it will get thinner, so that's totally okay. And I would like the batter anyways to be quite thick, because in my experience it is better to have it slightly thicker than thinner, especially if you want to have some very good definitions with the piping tip that you're using. If you want to have crisp edges and so forth, then it's really good if your batter is quite thick. So anyways, I'm using the stick blender here to combine the colors. I added Burlesque Mica mixed with titanium dioxide, but as you can see here, it is not quite colored enough, so I need to add more. And also one thing that I like to do is to add the color bit by bit, because it's easier to add color if you need more than to take it back. Also, like if you using too much titanium dioxide, it will thicken up your trace. I mean, in this case it's okay because you need it to be thick anyways, but you know what I mean. I prefer to go and add the color, even if it's boring for you to watch, but adding it little by little. And now here I would like to add another color. This is a blushed pink mica from You Make It Up, and I think it gives the soap a pearly type of very nice baby pink that I really like, because for this piping I want it to be just a light pink, not white but a pink, and this really helps me to get the color that I'm looking for. So you can see here the consistency, it's definitely getting there. But then of course we still need to add the fragrance oil to it. And as I said, this particular fragrance oil here is clearly making your trace reverse and make it thin, make it runny. So let's see how this is gonna work out now. So you can see this is a nice consistency right now. Just making sure that everything is mixed in properly and you don't have some white streaks showing up. And then here comes this Love Spell fragrance oil. This is the one from Brambleberry. I never tried any other types of Love Spell type fragrance oil. I would like to know if you have any special preferences. What are your experiences? If this is a common denominator for this type of fragrance, that it is behaving that way. Like for example, for florals you have exactly the opposite. In my experience, they tend to really thicken up the trace rather quickly, as opposed to this one here, who is like clearly making it thin. So anyways, it looks quite good. I'm adding the stick blender because the stick blender is helping like to getting it at piping consistency quicker. So that's one trick that I always like to use, like from time to time stirring it, and you can also from time to time add your stick blender to get to piping consistency fast. So here just add a little bit more titanium dioxide to make it a little lighter. I want this piping to be just a light pink, nothing too crazy. And even though it looks a little bit like a mortadella type of color, I don't know if you know what that is. Yeah, we'll put a picture in here. It's something that you find in Italy, and it looks a little strange, a little mortadella-like here, but this will lighten up, and I promise it will look very pretty at the end. So clearly this batter here is almost ready. I just gonna mix and make sure that it is smooth, there are no clumps in it since we use titanium dioxide, and everything is really mixed well. I'm just gonna set it aside for a moment while we are preparing the piping bag. For the piping bag, this is the way I like to prepare the bag. I like to twist it and then turn it like so into the bag, so I feel that I can prevent the leaking, you know, and then I just set it aside so we have it ready whenever your piping is ready to go, so you don't have to stress and to worry about the bag and so forth. And then of course here we have the embeds that we made earlier on. They are now hard and ready to go. Now you can see they have some little glitter in it, which is really cute, and they unmold pretty easy. So this is something that can be done while you are waiting for your batter to be completely ready to pipe it. So getting back to the piping, checking whether or not the consistency is gonna be okay to be used, and you can clearly see that it holds shapes here, can you see? And that's a test that I'm doing to determine whether or not it will hold the shapes when you are piping on top of your cupcake bases. And this looks quite good. So I'm ready to transfer it into the piping bag that we prepared earlier on. And then it's quite practical. These piping bags here are really good if you are someone that prefers using the disposable ones, because this plastic is a very stable plastic. It's not like the usual plastic bags that are, you know, I don't know how to explain, but this plastic here is crispy. It makes a crispy noise. So I really have the impression that it's really strong enough to hold soap, because soap is heavier than regular cream that you would use as a baker. So it's really good to have a bag that is really strong. And these bags here, they hold about 1 kilo of soap. Of course, if you are making larger batches, if you're making more cupcakes, then I would recommend using these washable ones. They have larger, really large bags, like up to 50 centimeters, I guess. So that's really good. I'm trying to scrape everything out of the bowl here. And this is very good for one reason as well, because you don't need to clean so much afterwards, you know, if there is not so much inside of your pitchers, but also, of course, you have more batter to get out. And one other tip that I find really helpful is I never try to wash my soap dishes or pitchers right away. I just leave it for 24 hours, and then it's soap, and then it's very, very easy to clean. You just soak it into warm water, you leave it for 1 hour, 2 hours, and then it's like a breeze to clean. So here we are ready to pipe. And with a tray here, it's always easy to move your project around. So you can see the batter is nice and thick. This is a French tip, French star that I'm using. It's the biggest one I could find, and I just love the shape of it. So I'm always starting with a dollop in the middle. This way I feel that the soap has a stability, and also you have a guide where you can, you know, orient yourself with the piping. So I'm always starting with this, even if I'm using other tips. There are of course many tips that you can use and experiment and so forth. I always like to do that as well. And then I'm just going one time around here as a first thing, and then I'm gonna come back and add a final dollop on it. So we are done with the piping, and then I have a little bit left over in the piping bag, and then what I like to do is to just take a small cupcake liner and just do a little baby I mean, you can use these type of things as a gift or as a sample. You know, it's always good not to waste anything, because why would you? So now that we have everything ready, I'm going to add the glitter. I'm going to add the glitter first, so the embeds are not covered in glitter necessarily. You can also do it the other way around if you want to have your embeds covered with glitter as well. In this case, I prefer not to. And this biodegradable glitter of Nurture soap here gives the cupcake additional pop. You can probably not tell it here on camera, but it gives this definition to these ridges of the piping, so I really love it. And now we are definitely ready to put our heart embeds on the cupcakes. And one thing that I really need to do, I always need to remove my gloves, because otherwise I don't have a good control over the embeds, I feel. And if you have the same problem as me, then please just be very careful not to touch your soap, because you can burn yourself. Okay, so I'm placing a heart here. On one side of the cupcakes. You could also put it on top of it, or whatever you like to do. You can also put 2 hearts, why not? And there's many things that you could do. You could add more glitter, or you can add some sugar pearls as well, why not? But this one here, for my love spell cupcake, I just add the heart on it, and then that's good. Another thing that I find really important to mention here is, maybe you can see it, once your piping, your batter is thick, then you really have to make sure that your embeds stick to the soap. So really make sure that you press it in really well, so it won't fall off once it is fully cured. So they are all done. All we need to do now is to wait for them to be unmolded. Now here it's 3 days later, and I just want to say, for the Love Spell fragrance oil is a typical thing that you really need to wait 3 or even more days before you can unmold, and especially when you're using these liners here. I don't know why exactly. And then you want to check if they unmold easily, then it's good, get them out, and then they're ready to go. But if not, if you see that the liner is sticking to the soap, also just a little bit, then just leave it and don't force it. You don't want to force it, because it will look ugly once it is unmolded. You will see that this, can you see here, like this? I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to leave it like this, and then I leave it 2 days longer, 3 days longer, however longer it needs to stay, because why not, you know, we don't need to force it. At the end you will have something that doesn't look good, and then why? Just because you were impatient, it's not worth it. Here I think we have the same problem. I'm just gonna leave it, and then the rest, for those ones who come out, we are good. I'm gonna show you an example here how it can turn out if you're just unmolding it too early. This is even though I put in sodium lactate. Funny, huh? This one is okay. Gonna leave this one as well. And I want to say these cupcakes here are a nice presents. They make nice presents for people for Valentine's Day or for Mother's Day, things like this. So we're gonna unmold all of them, and then I'm gonna show you a close-up at the end. So here they are. I hope you enjoyed this video, and would like to see you around pretty soon for another one. Have a great day. Bye bye.